But now, Jamie's smiling at someone. He's not going crazy. We have a guest here. Global debt levels are at record highs right now. More firms than ever are finding it difficult to refinance their debts.
Yeah, well, this vicious circle is leading to more closures. And according to the US Trustees Program, 733,000 businesses filed for bankruptcy in the US alone last year.
In the UK, high debt levels forced 4,308 companies to close their doors in the third quarter of 2018, which is over 19% higher than the same period in 2017.
Well, one firm that's trying to save some of these is UK investment specialist REL Capital, whose business model is based around turning about firms that are about to go bust.
Andy Scott is chairman and founder of REL, and he's with us now. And Andy, it's lovely to talk to you. This company basically, correct me if I'm wrong, searches out or looks for firms that are in trouble. You take over these firms and you turn them around, but you don't just then sell them on. You keep them, don't you? You kind of invest in them for the long term.
Yeah, turnaround business is not a short-term fix. A lot of our turnarounds, they break even at best at year one. So we really have to hold 3-4 years to get some kind of stabilised income back. We operate across 3 sectors and run 12 companies at the moment. So each of those sectors has its different challenges.
So, I mean, there's usually a reason why these companies are going bust. What is it you can see? What are the telltale signs that you can spot in a company which says, we can save this?
There's a number of reasons. I mean, as you mentioned before, debt is a big part of that. A lot of companies take on too much debt and they just simply can't service that. So if we're faced with an opportunity from an insolvency practitioner and say if we can strip that debt out, take the assets, pick it up and go again, saving 20, 30, even 50 jobs, we relish the chance.
You've done so well that you are potentially mooted as a Dragon's Den person, one of the guys on the sofa, aren't you?
Well, there's no seat available at the moment, but currently I think it'd be great if they had somebody, a wheeler dealer, young.
With a lot of capital, because you need capital. If you're going to be looking after companies that have got debt, you need, as you say, to be able to service debt, you need to be able to inject capital. That's your problem, isn't it?
Yeah, the first few months of a business is the intensive care, and we watch the numbers like a hawk. But over the year, you have to be able to service that cash drain.
Did you pick them up and then say, we don't like this, this is too hot for us, and drop it again? Or do you, once you take one on, do you keep it on forever?
No, you have to see the business through. You are going to have bumpy roads, but you have to have that short, medium and long term. You can't, there's no point getting rid of staff, say, after 3 months and then having to re-employ in 9 months. It makes no sense.
Yeah, I want to ask you about staff. What happens to the staff in the companies that you take over? Do they stay on? Do they leave? Do you get rid of them? What's their position? Is it tenuous?
Yeah, the companies we take on, a lot of the guys had a torrid time. So our first priority is to reassure those guys that their job's safe, our long-term vision, and get them to buy into the plan. So yeah, all of the businesses we've taken on, I think we've kept 90% of the businesses on.
Must be quite emotional, isn't it? Because you're talking about people's livelihoods. You're talking about taking a company which is obviously by its very nature going to be risky. Do you have sleepless nights?
Yeah, the joys or downsides of the business is you often have to buy a business which would often take 3 or 4 months in 24 or 48 hours. So I certainly don't sleep for those 2 days. But before Christmas, for example, we were trying to rescue a haulage business in the north of England, 30 jobs, and that is a bit of a weighs on your mind.
And you saved those jobs, did you?
Sadly not in that case. No, the transport licence wasn't granted in time in those jobs. So we don't always get there, but it's out of our control.
What's sorry, I want to know what your success rate is.
Success rate in terms of?
Well, in terms of selling a company on, I presume eventually you want to sell the company on, don't you?
Well, I've only been going for 2 or 3 years, and for me, they're my babies now, so I don't want to let them go. So we haven't sold anything, and no wish to do so.
Sorry, Marion.
Where do you come from in terms of, not physically, but where do you come from in terms of your career? Because you didn't start out in the world of business. Your story is a fascinating one. Talk us through where it all began.
Yeah, I think I probably lied about my age and was a nightclub bouncer at the age of 16, which is probably illegal now. But I was working the doors whilst at university, dropped out to become a builder. I got left £5,000 for my grandmother, and then just started doing building sites up. I thought I could run building sites, so I thought I'll have a go at bars. I sold out a group of bars to a company, but I also have had my bumps along the way. 2008 was a horrendous time for anyone in property. It was apocalyptic. The lights pretty much went out. So I really went back to basics after 2008, working on building sites again, and have rebuilt.
What do you need to save a company, apart from money, of course? What are the sort of
be an entrepreneur as well.
Yeah.
Like to...
Yeah. And just going back to your point about saving money, often people think you need big wads of cash in terms of things, but if you were to take a business and start again, all the good bits, they can be profitable quite quickly. So you don't often need especially with a smaller business.
So what goes wrong then? What goes wrong with?
Well, I always often say people fail rather than businesses, and there's a number of factors there. People lose interest, disputes. You see a lot of husband and wife teams that work together. I mean, I imagine that the marriage would fail as well as the business in that case.
I think you and I, Jamie, could have a really successful business together,
Oh, that's
if
very
nothing
kind.
else. Andy Scott, it's so lovely to meet you. Your story is fascinating.
We've managed to do it for half an hour. I don't know if we can get much further.
That's better than me and my husband most days. Andy Scott, thank you very much indeed.